Quack, quack, quack. It's your boy, Adam Chameo, here to give you my 30-minute recap of the Oregon at UCLA game. At UCLA, it was hard to tell. There were UCLA fans, I hear, in the stands. It was hard to see them between all the empty seats. I could certainly see the Ducks. I could hear the Ducks through a lot of it. UCLA fans, few and far between. But Oregon at UCLA, it was, it was a win. It was a 34-13 win. That's a solid win. The game was actually not really ever in question, even at the point when it was nearly a one-score game because of some weird bad reffing. Let's be real. Not enough people were blowing whistles, and UCLA was returning the ball, for what could have been if it were a fumble, which it absolutely was not. If Trayshawn Holden would have fumbled that ball, which again, he did not, would have been a scoop and score, would have been the second touchdown that we just completely gifted UCLA. And, Trayshawn Holden gets just face palmed out of nowhere because, Bruins are kind of jerks, I guess. It was that moment where it felt like it could possibly be, maybe not even a UCLA win, but kind of like it would have been like that Idaho game where it was like, no, the Ducks, it still doesn't feel like the Ducks could lose this one realistically. Like, even if it was in overtime, the Ducks are still going to win. But it's a one-score game against a team that's basically been outclassed. It was moments like that, which there were, only a handful. Overall, the Ducks did pretty well, I thought. It was only a few moments that made me frustrated watching the game, which was overall a great showing from the Ducks. It got them up to number 6 in the polls. And I know I'm not the only one who, I literally, you could see the sweat maybe, yes, sweat on my shirt because I went on a run. Mainly because of this game. I do not exercise. I do not run. But I had to run because the game got me feeling frustrated, which is mostly unfair, but also that's what happens when you tell a fan base, the only important thing is getting that national championship before our billionaire breadwinner, is no longer breadwinning for us. When you tell a rabid fan base, the only thing that matters is national championship, and then you say, this team may be the team most on paper ready to deliver us a national championship, and then you give us, a close game against Idaho and a close 4th straight loss to Boise State. It's going to get us a little unnerved. And this is a game that, famous trap game. I mean, don't forget when we beat Ohio State and then lost to Stanford a few weeks later. Like, crazy stuff can happen, even in the Pac-12. I mean, Big Ten, sorry. Dylan Gabriel, not a perfect performance. I wouldn't say, Heisman front-runner performance when you look around the country. Jonty, however, holy cow, from Boise State. But quality win there. But Dylan Gabriel still was one of, in the top tier of power, 4, or, major conference quarterbacks. Absolutely. Like, up there for possibly the best quarterback in the Big Ten. I'd have to really think about it, but probably. 31-41, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 278 yards. And the interception, as we all know, was a baffling one. That was the real moment that made us all just, because it was 28. That's right. It was 28-3 because the Bruins scored on their first drive. They got a field goal, which, field goal on the opening drive, which is typically your more scripted drive. I'm pretty fine with that. That's usually not, that can be considered a win. a lot of times, even against a team like UCLA, which is not doing great this season, as we saw. So that felt all right, and we were about to really take control. I mean, we already kind of put the game away by going up 28-3, but we were about to go freaking 35 or maybe 31-3 in the first half. Instead, Tez Johnson did slip. There is that. Tez Johnson really had two miscues in this, and it's kind of hard to blame him for it. One was the slip, which, even without the slip, it kind of looked like, I don't know if Dylan Gabriel should have thrown that ball. Brian Addison was angry at our team, first of all, and also was in a pretty dang good position. So probably shouldn't have thrown it. He knows that. One bad pass. Who would have thought it would go for a pick six, But so there's that, and then Tez Johnson also, this is hard to judge him on. It's not even his position, but he did miss that touchdown pass. We scored on every drive. I mean, especially if you want to count that pick six. Every drive of that first half. But it would have been pretty cool. I mean, it was right there. He had a defender in his face. I think that's what ultimately did it. He's not a QB, but that would have been pretty fun. That would have been a touchdown for Herbert, I believe. Which, let's get to, I mean, again, some of the ugliness of this game that got me running. A not runner running, even though I live in Tracktown. Yes, that's how frustrated I was. One thing that got me, even though it was a 34-13 win, one thing that got us all frustrated was that hit on Terrence Ferguson, which, they said he left because of a head injury. We really don't know what it is. I kind of feel safe to say, yes, I'm speculating some, but in all the clips, and, they had a lot of different angles of it, Terrence Ferguson got knocked out. I think that looks pretty clear to me. He got knocked out. You see his hand really go limp. It looked like he got, like the old heads would say, he got his bell rung pretty damn hard. And Brian Addison, it looked clean. Like, I don't know. I don't think it should have been called anything, I guess. But he did hit him pretty dang square in the head. I wouldn't have blamed him for calling it. And I think it was more just his demeanor afterwards, kind of like shoulder shruggy, like, who cares? It's like, these were people you knew, like you knew Terrence, and he looks pretty severely injured at that moment. Luckily, he was able to walk away, but still looks pretty bad. You'll love to see Dylan Gabriel get really defensive about it. That was cool, but you don't love seeing Terrence out for however long. You don't like seeing him maybe get knocked out. And you also don't like seeing Dylan Gabriel kind of put that much air in that situation. It didn't help out the situation. It kind of helped the defense. It helped Addison really be able to get time to set up that major kind of messed up hit. Brian Addison in general, what a crazy game. It was between that and then there was a moment, because as a Duck fan, maybe it's just as a college football fan, but I feel like as a Duck fan, you're always waiting for, like, when is the ridiculous incident about to happen? When is some bonkers, fumble out of the end zone or fumble return for a touchdown, which, kind of looked like it was going to happen for a second. What is the ridiculous thing going to happen? With a pick six, for example. And one of them, just storylines where it's just like, we look like fools. I don't know. I've been just, it's conditioned me. Loving Duck football has conditioned me to expect every once in a while for a historic blunder to happen. I kind of thought, especially with all the talk of how many Ducks, I believe 4 ex-Ducks or something like that on the Bruins team. Maliki Madavau, he had only one reception for 21 yards. I believe he almost had a touchdown reception too, and I could have just seen that, just like, oh great, like it's going to be Addison, Mataval, and I don't know, Jalen Jeffers are going to have draw up a special offensive lineman touchdown or something for him. I don't know. It felt like that could be some terrible hell that we could all be walking into. But fortunately it wasn't. It actually was, when you really look at it, a pretty solid win, a pretty easy win. I think it's important for us Duck fans to really appreciate the good things that are happening. Like, for example, that we are undefeated, look pretty dang good. We really beat down a team that is really not good, which is what you're supposed to do. We got a healthy quarterback that is now getting time. Our penalties weren't terrible, honestly. I remember a defensive pass interference. I remember a false start, which you don't like to see. I don't know. There was a handful, but it wasn't any one guy. It wasn't our O-line getting blown up. It wasn't any basic little thing. It wasn't any egregious sportsman-like stuff. It was kind of typical. UCLA definitely got the worst of all the calls. Jordan James got his. He got 103 yards and a touchdown on 20 carries. Dylan Gabriel even ran some. I think one thing you could criticize this game for a little bit is you would have liked to see us get a little more in the run game, but we averaged overall 4.3 yards. That's obviously with some lost yardage there and sacks, and so college is weird. But Noah Whittington, 8 carries for 21 yards. Jaden Lamar, 3 carries for 9 yards. So I think they were really hampering down on the run, especially in the second when they knew we were just trying to kill clock, which we did pretty well. We only scored 6 points. Yes, that does stink. But a lot of that was just, let's get the hell out of here. And honestly, I'm down with that, especially when our defense is playing very solid. And that's what I think a lot of Duck fans are just forgetting about when, even though the criticisms are totally fair, as long as you're not being a dick about it, but as long as, you're being somewhat reasonable about it, the criticisms can be fair about the offense, not looking as sharp sometimes. That one pick six, big momentum shifter there. Didn't really change the outcome of the game whatsoever, but definitely deflated us right before going in the half. But the defense looking very solid. Honestly, very solid. When you look at the actual team stats, I think that's what really tells the story. And I think, stats aren't everything. A lot of times you're don't let the stats lie to you. Don't just look at the stats and be and therefore we're going to win a natty because against these 4 lesser teams we've done this or something. But I think it can be a cold bucket of water too for fans that are being too harsh. For example, just look at, I think the most telling one is dang, our D is good. Especially because I don't think we've had a straight up bad showing from the defense. Against Boise State was the worst. Definitely. There was at least a couple touchdowns which were those were people not in the right spot. But we got Jeffrey Bossa back in this. And overall, I think the defense looked the best they have this whole season. Even though they looked pretty solid against Idaho and pretty great against Oregon State too. 1 of 10. This is the stat. 1 of 10 from third down for UCLA. Now, UCLA is a very, very, very bad third down team on offense, but 1 of 10 is something that should be, circled and patted on the back for. That is great. 1 of 10. 1 of 2 on fourth down. We held them to 125 passing yards and 47 rushing yards. Again, UCLA, not the best team in any part of football, but that is impressive against, not FCS team. And again, John T looking so good at Boise State, only helping us forget about how close that Boise State game is. Hopefully they're the G5 representative. I was rooting for Wazoo, but if Boise State's going to humiliate them, hey, that could be a quality win. Let's root for Idaho too. Now, yeah, and only 6 penalties as opposed to their 9 penalties. They were averaging 2 yards per rush, and we held the ball for 33 minutes, which goes to show you when the second half, when we're really trying to just kill it, which I think is the fair thing to do. It's not like we weren't throwing the ball, too, or anything like that. I think this is a really solid showing outside of like 2 or 3 mainly offensive moments. Let's appreciate Tez Johnson, 11 receptions, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns, 52-yard long score that was really helped us put it all away. We also had, just a shout out for defensive player Bryce Betcher. Probably best game of his career so far. He's had some good ones too. 3 tackles. I don't know if that's true, but better than his best game, but he got an interception. That was very fun. 3 tackles, all solo. Nico Reed had the most tackles, but it really was more of a defensive line-driven game, linebacker game, because Jordan Birch, 2 tackles for a loss, at least 1 sack. It kind of seemed, I remembered him getting another one. Mateo Uyangalele also got a tackle for a loss, a sack. Jordan Birch got a sack. Jeffrey Bossa got a sack. Overall 4 sacks, 7 tackles for a loss. But even those numbers don't really tell how just in the backfield, just making Ethan Garber's life a hell, honestly. I truly felt bad for him by the end of it, by the fourth quarter, when his leg wasn't feeling as well, and he had the towel over his head, and This game was truly, truly in garbage time at a certain point. Tysheen Johnson got that superfluous interception, but I'm glad he did. Might as well get into practice of it, even though it probably cost us like 2 or 3 yards in the end. Atticus Sappington overall did pretty well. He missed that extra point, but you got 2 pretty long field goals, like 2 40-ish yard field goals. So I guess I'll trade that. I don't really want to be missing multiple points afters, but I don't know. It's good, I guess. The secondary was barely challenged because the defensive line was doing so well. And I don't know, man. It was a fun-ass time. Kind of weird we didn't see Dante Moore. We saw him against Oregon State. I just don't know what it means, really. You know? We'll figure it out. I mean, it's not like we looked bad per se, or that we needed him. I mean, it would have been nice, honestly, if the main thing is if we could have just gotten in a backup, whether it be, like who the hell ever, just out there, because I didn't. I think we all wanted, personally, I wanted to see Dante Moore come in there and just rip things up. I think that would be hysterical for him to just destroy. But, like his former team, obviously, especially after they had such a stick up their butts about us. But it was also nice to see after the game that, a lot of his former teammates had a lot of good things to it. Like, they were going over that he had a big line of people just ready to chat. And that was nice. It's nice to see that they're still, especially after there was a lot of bad blood. I don't know. I'd like to think it's not injury related. You hope not. But maybe it was just like, let's just get Austin Novosad out there because, first of all, Austin Novosad ain't bad at all. This game's completely out of hand. And just putting Dante Moore in there, it's gonna have headlines, like him hitting the field at all. It won't make a headline per se, but it may be, there's gonna be some jabs in it. It's already bad blood. Maybe that was it. Maybe it's Dante being like, I don't want to. Maybe he was hurt. Who knows? Maybe he's not QB number 2. That would be crazy. But Austin Novosad did look good, but that would be nuts. probably just shouldn't even think about it until the worst happens, and it's like, okay, who is the backup QB? Now we'll find out for sure, But let's pray to God that never happens. The O-line does not look like it's made out of Swiss cheese anymore, which is cool, because it shouldn't. It should be made out of something sturdier, at least a sturdier cheese, like a hard Parmesan or something. One of those big wheels you'd see that are crazy expensive. Overall, I don't really know what to say. This was a good win. Don't let anyone tell you different. We're 4-0. We're going to play. Technically, it was our first Big Ten. Yes, it was our first Big Ten game, sure. But we all know Michigan State. That's going to feel like our real first new conference game. And we have a weird history. Michigan State, I believe we're tied 3-3 or something, or 2-2. Obviously, we had that weird-ass bowl game where we won 7-6. I'm just going to do this live for some reason, see if I remember them all. We had we had obviously Marcus Mariota with the amazing shovel pass to Royce Freeman and Autzen. We had Vernon Adams Jr. barely losing to them on a broken finger. And we have some other one that I truly don't remember. So that is cool. Probably not worth remembering if I don't remember it right now. Yes. So I'm excited for that game also because they look beatable. They should be beatable. Even if it's a game that looks as weird or lopsided as any of the games we've played before. I mean, I don't want another Boise State game. I don't want to rely on special teams. But we should be heavily favored, especially at home. And then the big one, which I don't even want to think about. You know what? I think that's enough talking about this game because my lovely partner just gave me some delicious food. What else is there to say about this game? It's Sunday night. The game's already over. You're just coping with me at this point. We're going to be back on Tuesday night-ish with Ucla Day and such, breaking down all this, breaking down all the next week. Go Ducks. Go Ducks.